Hey folks, Darren here. Welcome back to Mr. Sandsman and another 10-minute tier ranking. This time I'm going to do Friday the 13th. So let's move over to this screen here. Here is my tier setup. And there you go. There are all the different sections. At the very bottom there in 5th place, we have Eat Your Slop, followed by Dayfly Eggs in number 4. Number 3 is going to be A Hairy Turn. Number 2, Jesus Christmas Holy Jesus, Goddamn Holy Jesus Jumping Christmas Shit. And number 1, You're All Doomed. Number 1 being the top tier of the franchise, of course. Okay, so let's start with Jason X. Where do I think Jason X should go? I think Jason X is okay. You can have fun with it. It does have one of the best kills in the franchise with the liquid nitrogen scene where the girl's head gets smashed. So I'm gonna... I do have fun with this, and I do have fun with Big Uber Jason at the end. But it is a ridiculous movie. It's kind of a cheap-looking movie for what it is. But it's kind of middling for me. I can watch it. I can have fun with it. So I'm going to put it in the middle there. It's going to be A Hairy Turn. Freddy vs. Jason. I did the Nightmare ranking a couple of days ago. And in the Nightmare ranking, it was 1 from the bottom. But that was because I was looking at it from a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of perspective. I don't like Freddy in this film, but I don't mind Jason. So I'm going to elevate it in this ranking here to it's going to be A Hairy Turn alongside Jason X. The remake is something that when we did our best and worst of on TSL Movie Podcast, we ranked the whole franchise, or we did a best and worst of episode for the whole franchise, and we missed out the remake. And a lot of people were telling us to go back to it, have a look at it. It's better than what you remember. And when I saw this in the cinema for the first time, I'll admit I wasn't a huge fan. However, on rewatch, I actually really enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it. I thought there were a lot of things to take away from it, and in particular, the opening sequence, which I think is the pre-credit sequence, which I think is fantastic. So I'm going to put that in the middle as well. I don't mind this movie, and I have recently bought the 4K of it, which I'm really looking forward to watching again. The original is one of those movies that when I first saw it back in the early 80s, I was a bit kind of meh about. It was kind of so what. I was a massive Halloween fan. Every movie that I wanted to watch had to be up there with Halloween, and this wasn't. And it is something that Sean S. Cunningham has since admitted that he blatantly ripped off Halloween. So it was always in the back of my mind when I saw this film for the first time. I do like the film, and I've said this before, it plays out like a whodunit. And all through the film, they don't give you any clues as to who might have done it. And so that's a big problem for me. So whilst it should be higher, I think I'm going to put it in the middle here, along with the other entries. It's going to be A Hairy Turn. Next is Friday the 13th Part 2. This, for me, is where the franchise starts. For me, this is one of the stronger entries. I love Sackhead Jason. I liked the idea that they killed off Adrian King in the opening scenes of the film. And I think there are some really classy moments as the film progresses. The wheelchair kill, I think, is really cool. And also the scene where Jason bursts into the girl's cabin at night and you get that kind of shot of him holding up the knife with his knackered old thumbnail there. It always really struck me as one of the creepiest kills in the film. So I'm going to put this in Jesus Christmas, Holy Jesus, Goddamn Holy Jesus Jumping Christmas Shit. I hope there are not too many in this section, because it's a real mouthful to spit out, is that. Friday the 13th Part 3, I remember watching this as a kid on my own, and I absolutely loved it. It scared the hell out of me. Probably came out onto VHS in the UK in about 1983-84. I remember renting it, sitting at home, babysitting, watching it, babysitting at 10 years old. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's, again, one of the stronger entries in the franchise. I love the showdown at the end. I love the fact that she hangs Jason and he pulls himself up, reveals his face. Great stuff for me. Absolutely fantastic. And then that kind of sequence towards the end where he's tapping on the window with the axe wound in his forehead. I think it's all really cool stuff and really creepy. The 3D stuff does get on your nerves a little bit, but characters like Harold and his wife soon help you to get over that. I think that Harold character's great fun, sitting on the toilet, eating and drinking. Really made me laugh. Really made me laugh. Okay, so where do I put it? I put it in tier 2 there. Jesus Christmas, holy Jesus, goddamn holy Jesus, jumping Christmas shit. Definitely one of the stronger entries in the franchise. Next up, part 4. Part 4 for me is probably the strongest in the franchise, I think. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, part 4 for me is going right up to the top. You're All Doomed. A real classic Friday the 13th entry. Joseph Zito directed it, the guy behind The Prowler and Chuck Norris movies as well. I think he did a couple of those, Invasion USA. But yeah, he really nailed the look and feel of Friday the 13th. The production was a slight notch up from part 3. The characters were more interesting, and Jason was at his strongest, I think, in this. So You're All Doomed, the top tier, is where the final chapter is going to sit. Part 5, something that I wasn't so much of a fan of when I first saw it back in the 80s. Couldn't get my head around it, a little bit like Halloween 3. But over the years, I've kind of gotten used to it and really appreciate it for what it was. I wish we could see the full uncut version of this film, because it did really fall foul to the MPAA. But I think if you'd have asked me 10, 15 years ago, it would have been in the Dayfly Eggs section. But now I think it's up there with the likes of Jason X, the remake, and Friday the 13th, the original. I know some of you are going to hate me for putting Friday the 13th, the original, in the 3rd tier, but part 5 is going to sit alongside it. Sorry, folks, that's just the way I feel about that original film. Jason Lives. During the 80s, Jason Lives was my favorite movie. It had a look and a sheen about it that none of the other movies had seen before. It also introduced me to Alice Cooper, who I'm a huge fan of. And it was a movie that was somewhat meta as well. Didn't take itself too seriously. There are a lot of kind of in-jokes in this film, and it doesn't mind taking the piss out of itself throughout. So Friday the 13th Part 6, because of all those reasons, and its soundtrack, and CJ Graham, and some of the really cool kills in this film, is going to go in the 2nd tier. I think over time, it's kind of worn me down a little bit. For years, it would have been at the top, but I think I appreciate Friday the 13th, the final chapter, more than I do Jason Lives, although I do really like Jason Lives. Part 7, The New Blood. One of those entries in the franchise that has arguably one of the best looking Jason Voorhees. The introduction of Kane Hodder, John Carl Buechler directing this and doing the makeup as well. And he made Jason look incredible. This zombified Jason, where you can see his rib cage and his shoulder blades, and, you know, just the structure of him is completely visible to you on screen. And good old Kane Hodder doing a big fire stunt in this movie as well. I know he'd done them before, post his accident, but it's a terrific fire stunt in this film. And those of you that know me will know that I love fire stunts in movies. So as I did like this as a kid. I really did. I liked that they were doing something different. This was supposed to be Freddy versus Jason, but instead we got Jason versus Carrie. I'm going to put it in the middle because there is a lot to like, I think, about this film, and I think it gets unfairly shit on a lot of the time. It doesn't make any sense. It does take swings, and not all of them connect. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the middle. I'm gonna put it in the middle. But if I were to look at the middle as a whole there with those movies and to rank them, I'd have Friday the 13th, the original, higher than most of these. Okay, Jason Takes Manhattan, an abomination for me because this movie cost me a lot of money. As a teenager, I bought this, a rental copy, when it came out, costing me £90 back in the late 80s, I would say, 89, something like that. It was one of my first paychecks from my first job, and I got it home, excited. I couldn't wait to see it. I'd seen the trailers, and it was a pile of crap. It really was. I hated this film. I tried to take it back, but the guy in the shop wouldn't have it. So just because it's where do I put it? Dayfly Eggs or Jason Goes to Hell? I'm going to put it in Dayfly Eggs. Because Jason Goes to Hell, I'm going to put in Eat Your Slop. Jason Goes to Hell is one of those movies that I had no idea what they were doing. I had no idea what they were thinking. I know there were rights issues with the title Friday the 13th, but they could use Jason, and they managed to squeeze Friday into the subtitle there. But this whole idea of Jason passing from body to body in the guise of a different entity each time just didn't work for me. And, you know, the opening of it's great fun with the SWAT team, and they blow Jason up, but that's kind of all we see of him. The rest of it is not very good at all. And I do think it is the weakest in the franchise. So, unfortunately, it has to go in Eat Your Slop. So there it is. Friday the 13th Part 4, my favourite, followed by Part 2, 3, and 6 in Tier 2. Tier 3 has Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, the remake, the original, Part 5, and Part 7. Dayfly Eggs, which is Tier 4, has Jason Takes Manhattan, and Eat Your Slop, the bottom tier there with Jason Goes to Hell. I'm still agonizing about that middle tier. I may move something. It's rattling me. You know what? I'm going to do something here. I'm going to move New Blood down one to Dayfly Eggs. And it's simply to just kind of break this up a little bit, because New Blood isn't anywhere near as good as for the original Friday the 13th. But I don't think the original Friday the 13th is a great movie. So yeah, so that's how I'm going to leave it. I'm going to don a helmet as well, because you guys are going to throw stuff at me, I'm sure of it. It's all a bit of fun, folks. It's all a bit of fun. I've been here from the beginning of all these films. I've grown up with them, and they do change around over time, but that's how I think I'm going to leave it. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. I can't wait to see the comments on this one. But, you know, you guys know I'm not a guy that takes these things too seriously, so it's just a bit of fun. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm sure I'll be back soon with another 10-minute tier ranking. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.